Hello, everybody. Welcome to our program today. My name is Sarah Bryant. I'm the Chief Marketing Officer at DBA Platform, where our goal is to get you found. Today, we're going to be talking basic strategy for local optimization. This is the most widely asked for, sought after education for the webinar is basically how do we do this better and all the what ifs and supposes for your individual industries. So we're going to cover kind of that general broad local search again today. And while everybody's kind of coming into the room, I'm going to start with a couple of announcements, some things that have been happening, and then we'll get into the ins and outs of Google profile optimization, which is what you're here for today. Quick update, we had our first month of office hours in August, and I just wanted to remind you that if you have questions pertaining to specific topics such as tech support, platform walkthrough, we have a schedule with experts who can spend an hour in an office hour setting, online, virtual. The attendance for office hours is maybe 1-2 people show up and they get all their questions answered. This is an awesome program because it provides you the right people with the right tools and the right information to help answer your questions. So feel free to check out the schedule. We'll be posting it in multiple places. You probably received an email about it, but you can kind of pick if you want to figure out how to resell DBA Platform services. There's an office hours for that. We have local Falcon walkthrough that Jan does himself. We have Luke does the DBA platform walkthrough, so you can learn tips about how to set up your reporting and things like that. If you have technical issues that aren't urgent, then Cam is on a couple times a week, 2 to 3 Eastern on Tuesdays and Thursdays, where he is like relaxed and ready to sit down and help you. So remember to take advantage of our office hour program. It's going great. There's plenty of room for you. And you'll see some updated, the website and some emails about how to get to office hours. Also, our new Near Me Metrics has gone live. Near Me Metrics, we talked about it in a webinar about a month ago. It's already in your DBA platform, and it allows you to parse all the metrics that you're looking for and automate them and do like error reporting and things like that. It's really cool. And Kelly Henson, our own Kelly Henson, does an office hours segment. So you can check out that office hours schedule where she just goes over Near Me metrics and reporting questions. So if you need a little tutorial or you want a demo, join Kelly's office hours. Also coming up, we just completed a almost 2-year case study. It's an inventory case study, and I'm not going to go into the details today. I've sort of touched on it a couple times. We're getting ready to publish that. This case study ran from November 2020. It's still providing insights today as of August 2022. We did 284 locations with inventory. In phase 1, we optimized the profiles for the locations, the Google Business Profile locations. We optimized them, and in the case study, you can find out how we did that, what we did, who the entities were that were involved in that case study. And we nearly doubled impressions just doing an optimization. Those metrics held month after month with the increased impressions just from the optimization of the profile. Then in November of 2021, we added inventory to these locations. So we took all of their inventory of these stores, we added it to their Google Business local profiles, and ultimately ended up quadrupling impressions. And that does not include like the store visits, phone calls, and actions that also came with those impressions. So it's a mighty, mighty powerful case study. We'll be getting that out to you. I know a lot of people have been asking me for it, have questions about it. It is coming up imminently. But I would say if you are interested in hooking up inventory for your clients, and you really should be, inventory is an amazing way to capitalize on keywords in a business profile. Not everybody's doing it. The big guys are doing it, Walmart, Target, and those. But you want to get on board with this sooner rather than later, because when something is new, you get the advantage. If you're the first to do it, you get that competitive advantage. Later, when everybody's doing it, the competitive advantage isn't so much there. It just becomes a must do in order to not fall behind. So now is the time with inventory. Super interesting, not difficult to do. Your inventory does need to have some universal, like global, inventory numbers or POS system. So you need, your inventory has to be coded in order to make this program work. But drop a note in the Facebook group, and Ryan will put that Facebook link into the chat today. And if you're not already part of our private Facebook group, get in there, drop a note, and we'll hook you up with somebody to walk you through how inventory might work. It is not terribly expensive. It has huge benefits. I mean, I don't know anything else that's going to quadruple impressions in search for a few dollars per location per month. So check it out. Okay, so on to the webinar for today. What we're going to talk about is, of course, we're going to do any recent Google Business Profile changes and keep you updated on that, any local search updates. And then our topic today is a general discussion of Google Business Profile optimization. And be sure to get in on that question and answer in your controls for the Zoom webinar today. You will see a Q&A box. Click that open now, and you can, number one, put questions in there for the presenters today, and we will answer those questions in the Q&A segment at the end. Number two, watch for the questions that people are putting into that Q&A box, and then you can upvote them, and we will take the questions in the order of the most votes at the end of the webinar. So if there's something you see there that somebody asked that you really want to know the answer to, upvote it and make sure that it gets on our program today. Okay, I just wanted to start with a story, and then I'm going to introduce Jan to come on and be our expert and explain to us how Google Profile optimization works. And you guys have specific questions about your industry, drop them in the Q&A, and we will handle as many specifics as we can. But when we think about what our webinar topics are going to be, we actually have a process, of coming up with those based on what's going on in the industry, based on our panel of experts who join us once a quarter to kind of go through content. And the most widely asked for topic is the basics on Google Business Profile optimization. And we always say like, oh, we'd love to do something like more in depth and more, but the fact of the matter is this: most businesses don't understand how Google works, even at a rudimentary level. They don't understand for sure how that Google Business Profile works to get local search going. And I wanted to tell a story. This literally happened to me last night, and our team talked about it this morning. And it just reiterates the importance of understanding the basics of Google, the Google Business Profile, and optimizing that. So here's my story. True story, absolutely true story. I have a group of friends in the neighborhood, and we get together for each other's birthday. And Nancy's birthday was Tuesday. So tomorrow night, my 3 girlfriends and I are getting together. And I was gonna have this Friday night thing at my house tomorrow, but I've got a packed schedule. And so I thought about this place that I could order like pans of food, and we could have like a family style dinner. And I've done this many times from a place in my neighborhood called Salerno's, but I haven't done it since before the pandemic, and lots of things have changed for restaurants in the area, including many of them have closed. So what I needed to do is find out if they're still open, and I needed to get the catering menu. So the first thing I did, of course, is I Googled Salerno's. And what comes up when you Google them, I live in Chicago, so there are a lot of Salerno's. So first of all, I had to figure out if the one, what comes up is the one in my neighborhood. And this Mount Prospect one, that's my Salerno's. Great. So now I need the catering menu. So I click on the website, because I'm not just doing an order. I actually need to go look and see what they've got. So I go to the website, I make sure that I've got the right location, and I get a 403 error. So I go, oh, I bet they're gone. I bet the pandemic took them. But I really wanted to know the answer to that, because Salerno's is the place that I go, like when we have a graduation or whatever, and I get like a pan of chicken piccata. And so I need to know if they're still there. So I wanted to dig a little deeper. Now, I'll tell you that the millennials that I talked about this with on our call this morning, that work for DBA, said I would be done right there. I would be done. I would just move on. But Salerno's has been something my family has done for a long time. So I did dig, but most consumers aren't going to do that. So the first thing I did is I looked to see where I got the 403. I looked to see, is this URL real, or did somebody hook up the wrong URL in the profile? So I checked, and actually it is. Salerno's website is salernopizza.com. So I double checked that. And then I went and I grabbed the phone number, and I decided to call him. It was 8:30 last night, locally for me. So I called, and I got like an automated system that said, hey, we're on a new automated system. If you want to order something, just speak it to the automated attendant. And so that was new to me. And then because I needed catering, I ended up getting a person. So I got this guy who basically was ready to take my pizza order. And I said, hey, I went to your website, and like your website isn't up, and I'm trying to do a catering order. And I go, do you know why your website would be down? Are you open? And he said, oh, well, I think the website might be down because we're getting ready to close up for the night. And I was like, no, that's not how that works. You don't take the website down at night, if you're a restaurant. That's not it. And he goes, so how can I help you or whatever? And I said, do you realize that when people are Googling you, like you don't exist right now? And I said, is your website actually salernopizza.com, or did that maybe change with this new attendant thing? And so he puts the phone aside, and I hear him scream to somebody, is our website salernopizza.com? And then I didn't hear the answer, but the answer must have been yes. That came back. And so this guy goes, yeah, that's our website. And he goes, but you can also get to our menu through, and then he gave me some other link. And I was like, okay. I go, but I mean, I really am just trying to get catering, but you understand, like, having people Google you and your website doesn't show up, like that's a big problem. But the bottom line is, nobody, he didn't tell anybody, nobody cared. We ended the call. I went to the new link that he gave me, and I still can't order catering from that either. So my friends and I are going out to a place called Sun Shui tomorrow instead. I tried. I really, really, really tried. I really tried. But I probably won't be going back to Salerno's because, that was too difficult, and I'm probably done there. So they survived the pandemic, but they may not survive the fact that they don't understand how their Google business profile works. And Salerno's is not a small place. I mean, they have, I don't know, maybe 8 locations throughout Chicagoland, and somebody should be paying attention, and if you're an agency, this is the experience, is your business owners don't know what they're looking at. They don't understand what they're looking at, and they don't realize that. Let me go back to this slide here. Nope. This one. They don't realize that what they're looking at is a local profile, but they don't realize that people are using that information to click to call and to get directions. And, this is how people navigate the world. And as agencies, as large businesses, we need to make sure that we have it together. Now, everybody always asks Jan during the business profile optimization, what's the most important thing to do? And any one of these things, like having a broken website, or a broken link, or a wrong phone number, or bad hours, can be devastating to your business. It's not difficult. It's just it's not very transparent to people how to do it. So let's introduce our presenter and talk about how to optimize and make sure that the information is right and optimized in the Google Business Profile. You guys know Jan Gilbert. He is the creator of Local Falcon, the original Google Maps grid tracking system. He is a Google Profile product expert here at DBA Platform. He's a senior SEO consultant based in Toronto, and he comes onto our webinars every month and helps us figure out what to do and how to automate this stuff to make easy work of it so that we can capitalize on leads. I know that was a big intro, but again, sometimes we forget when we get so deep into what we do that it's really the basics that'll bring you down, right, Jan?
Yeah, super. And when I go through things, I'll talk about the super basics because a lot of businesses don't have that, or it gets broken along the way and then they forget to recheck, and so they're getting in the weeds sometimes, like we do. But then you have to go make sure your numbers, Google didn't update your numbers, or your contact form still works because you upgraded a plugin and you didn't test your contact form and now you broke it. You didn't realize, and 5 months later, like, I didn't remember. And then, stuff like that. So you have to go back and check. So let's go through a little bit more here. I always start out with the new categories, and I'm gonna have to run through this fast. And if I probably won't get to everything, if we want some questions at the end. And maybe I saw a question come in, like maybe I'm just going to do something in Facebook. I'll make a video on my channel or something and add it into Facebook to go through a little bit more detail, because I don't know if we're going to have time to go through all of it and then get to the question. So I start with the category. So there's a bunch of new categories. Wallpaper installer, maybe. I don't know how many people put wallpaper up nowadays. Pickleboard court, like there's not a lot of optical instrument repair service. That might be interesting if someone has that. Rock climbing area, maybe, but those are, and onsen is a Japanese like hot bath thing. I don't know. So there's not too much new that is important for a regular business. I would say wallpaper, MG dealer, maybe, but not that. But the point is, Google's updating and adding new categories all the time, and if you're the first one to pick it and your competitors don't have it, then you get that leg up, right? Until months later down the road, or even years, they realize someone SEO says, "Oh, there's a new category. I didn't know that." That's why I say this every month. So there's a Google update. It's the helpful content update. So it is try to get rid of junk AI written content, and they announced it last week that it would start, and it's starting today. So I saw this morning. The helpful content update. Now I'm not going to spend time on this. It's a whole site. It affects the whole site. So if you have crappy content, duplicate content, AI written content that's not useful, your whole site can get demoted. So be on the lookout for in the next 2 weeks. If you start losing a lot of traffic, it might be because of this. And there's probably going to be tons of SEOs freaking out and talking about it all over the place. So just something to be aware of, that it's starting today. So check your analytics and your Search Console numbers for starting today, and see if there's any drop overall, not specific pages, but overall on your site. All right, Google Business Profile Optimization. So I've done this in 3 batches. So we have our setup phase, the ongoing phase, and then other things. And just because they're other doesn't mean they're unimportant. Just like Sarah was saying about the website has to be done properly and all that stuff. So setup phase.
Jan,
so go ahead.
Real quick, I just read through the chat, and Tim and a bunch of people pointed out that my Salerno pizza example, it's Salerno pizza in the Google Business Profile. On that first entry, if it was, I forget, I think it was an organic entry, but it could have been an ad, I can't remember. It says Salerno's pizza. So the S, so it's like mislabeled, but actually I live in Chicago. Salerno's is like, that's like a very popular, like common Italian name. So the Salerno's with an S, I didn't tell you that, but I checked that. Those are different locations. That's the same location. So it was confusing to me too, as I'm going through it last night going, so the actual website for Salerno pizza that I was looking for, they had it correct on the Google Business Profile, at least I think, based on talking to a 16-year-old guy ordering pizza. So there you go.
And that's another good point. If there are businesses with a similar name, or an easy way for people to get mixed up, you have to make sure you go the extra effort to make sure that that is differentiated properly, to know like, hey, we're these guys, we're not those guys. Even, you know, however you need to do it, you have to, how is a user potentially going to get confused or not, and not call you, right? So
Right, it's very confusing. And thank you, Tim, for pointing that out, because yes, I saw that too, and that confused me at first. But when I went to the organic listing, it's not, that location isn't there.
super. Okay, cool. Just stop me whenever. I'm gonna run here. So run through it. So verification. So well, sorry. So these are the most important. So I have all these, you know, there's a lot of information here. Plus there's a lot more that I didn't even put on here, all because Google keeps adding fields. These are the main things, the main factors that you want to pay attention to. Your name, keywords in the name still make a difference. Your category, primary category, is a huge factor. Your associated website pulls in a lot of information, and Google is reading that on maps. Your citations and directories, which also include local backlinks, and then you're creating points of engagement. So your images, your reviews, and the posts that you create are things that people click on, they're reading, they're like creating directions, or they're looking through your images and they're zooming in and to see what's going on. So those are points of engagement that Google says, oh, well, this listing is getting more clicks and work, you know, people are looking at it, as opposed to another listing that has hardly any reviews, hardly any pictures. Google, well, that's not really interesting to people. We're going to show the one that's more interesting to people, right? Because that's how Google stays the top search engine, is by giving useful information to people. So the points of engagement is a super thing that, you know, your name is your business name. You can't really change that. Category, can't change that. Website, yes, you can update, but it's everything else, the reviews, the posts, the images, that extra stuff that you can do. That's something that it's not a one-time thing. So we'll go through it. So verification, there's a dentist near me. They still haven't claimed their business. I don't know why. They just don't. Some businesses don't realize. I'm sure no one on this call here has anyone that didn't claim their business listing yet. Once you do, check your users or your managers. Make sure that there's not extra users there, because you just don't want to have that access given to people. Maybe there was an old SEO company or an old person that used to work there that's not there anymore. You want to just go through that, make sure that's cleaned up and proper. Your business name has to reflect your official business name in your registry, or what's on your signage. If they're different, no, if you're able to put signage that has extra keywords in there, and you make an actual sign, put it, you know, on your door, instead of like a huge, it doesn't have to be a huge thing on a big signpost or on the top of your store. It could just be on your door. So there's tricks like that, and that's where, as a consultant, I'm able to tell you what, you know, where's the gray, what you do. But your business name has to match your real business name. Obviously, check your address. Sometimes the addresses are wrong, or there's a room number or suite number is not there. You want to add that in, make it easy for people to do that. In this case, they're adding crazy extra stuff to your business name. Don't do this. Don't add your phone number and extra information. Some people add their address and locations and stuff like that. Don't do that. You're going to get suspended. And right now, like getting a listing back up, if you're suspended, it takes about 2 weeks. Imagine your listing going down for 2 weeks because you're doing silly stuff like that. It's not worth the risk. So the business name is a large ranking factor. Keywords have to match the outdoor signage, and you don't want to have your name just all generic keywords. If I have plumber Houston Inc., who's going to find me? Because now Google's going to think, well, that person, if someone types in plumber Houston, is that a business name? Is that a generic search that someone's doing? So you want to have a branded element to that part. Your address and service area. So if you're not showing your address and you're hiding your address, you want to make sure you pick your service areas properly, and you have a list of 10 spots there that you could do. When you pick those service areas, you're going to have a little contour map to help users know where you go. So make sure that makes sense. Don't extend it past where you're going. It's not a ranking factor. So even if you pick a place far away, Google's not going to be like, oh, they're willing to go there, we're going to rank them higher there. It has nothing to do with ranking. This is more for users to help them understand that. Will you deliver there? Will you service there? That kind of thing. When you add the service areas, they don't show on desktop, but in mobile they will show. There'll be a list here, so that's also helpful. And sometimes it'll say serves Frisco in nearby areas. So sometimes you get that extra, those extra pieces in mobile. So you want to make sure they make sense. You don't want to put zip codes in there. You want to put areas that people recognize, and you want to try to cover as best as possible when someone looks at a map and Google shows them where you're going, where you're possibly going to service them, then you want to do that. I basically just said all of this. So, and you're not supposed to do more than 2 hours. Google says, oh, if you're going two hours away, that's kind of the limit of what it thinks a service area should do. And so you don't want to, and you could get in trouble if you pick like all of United States or something, or all of Texas. Like there's no way a pest control company is going to do all of Texas, right? It's supposed to be for local companies. Pick your city. Category. So some businesses have lots of categories to choose from. So we have a dentist, there's tons of pediatric dentists, regular dentists, dental clinic, and there's a lot more. And so make sure that you're choosing all of the main one as your primary, and add all the secondary categories that you possibly can choose. There's other categories that have a lot, like HVAC or air conditioner. Like sometimes you have a lot of choice. And which one do you pick? Well, you pick the one that you, I guess, make the most money from, whoever that you're trying to sell to more. Sometimes like AC and furnace, well, you can change your primary category, right? So in the summer, you're going to put your primary category as air conditioner repair. And in the winter, you're going to put your primary category as furnace repair, because so you can switch that. Don't be afraid to move them around if your service changes is based on seasonality or something like that.
Hey, Jan, Scott
go
was
ahead.
asking, are there any instructional YouTube videos that we can reference for all the recommended steps, or a checklist so we can integrate into our project management? And I know at one time we did have a big checklist. And what else do we have? I mean, we do have webinars that are published that kind of go over this, but do we have any documents?
No, I mean, I can create a video. I think I'm going to create a video series or something like that and share it on our Facebook group, because I think I can spend 10 minutes on each one of these slides going into all the super details, and depending on what kind of category you are you single business, franchise business, a large, like there's so many, it's easier to answer specific questions that people have than to give every single type of scenario, but I could try to do something like that.
Maybe we can go back and grab the kind of general checklist and put it in the Facebook group. Make sure that if you're on these webinars that you're part of that private Facebook group, because we do post answers later and case studies and things like that for this group. And so if you're in there, we'll post what we have as it was the GMB optimization checklist, and we'll just refresh that thing and put it in there. At least it'll give you, like, so you're not missing a main point. And then we can go deeper and do some instructional videos on the how-tos of each of those points or something.
Yeah, super. So I mentioned a lot about categories already, and basically the last thing here is you want to create a matching page on your website for each category that you're choosing. So that way you're linking between your website and the GMB, and Google says, oh yeah, we see it on both things. The trust data is there because they're matching. So you want to make sure that you optimize your website for each category that you choose. Phone number. So I get this a lot is, what do we have? If I have a tracking number, what do I do? So what you do is, first of all, make sure your phone number is right, and you don't want to use 800 numbers. Google likes to see local numbers, and so what you'll do is you'll put your tracking number up top, and then your additional phone number would be your original real phone number. That way, when Google sees your site and sees like a real number, your original number there. Maybe you have like a fancy, a unique number, and then, but if you add a tracking number on your GMB profile, then it doesn't match, and you're like, oh, now my citations don't match. So make sure that you put your real phone numbers or any other additional phone numbers that you have in these secondary or additional phone numbers, and then users only see this first one, so they'll call off this first one, but then Google knows about all the other ones so that it doesn't have any NAP issues, saying, oh, why are there different phone numbers, and it'll try to change this one back to the original one because you didn't add it here. So just make sure that, Google allows for that, but you got to use it the right way.
Yeah, can we go back to categories for 1 second? Because Jessica
Sure.
had a clarifying question.
Yeah.
Can you have too many or too few categories on your listing? I thought there was a sweet spot once upon a time.
No, like if they make sense, like add them all. If they all make sense. And even if they don't make sense, sometimes there's a business that, like there's a business in Quebec. It's weird. It's a pool place, but it's also a gym. So what do they choose, right? So if their website has information about both those services that they're doing, then Google is okay with it.
So if you're a cat cafe, you should go under coffee and animal rescue.
If yeah, you can, and part of that is testing, right? And I'll come to the scanning part later. Is a lot of SEO is testing. You don't know how Google in its computer brain is going to think about things or understand things. So maybe by adding those two categories, they do support each other, and sometimes it won't. So you want to scan, make a change, scan a week later, and say, oh, that lifted a lot. That's awesome. Or, oh, it looks like we lost on some of our we gained on these keywords, but we lost on these other keywords, which are more important. Let's change it back, right? So you got to test.
Is there a limit to how many categories you can put on your profile now?
I've never tested if there was a limit. Like, I think this is like the most that I've seen, like air conditioner, plumb, like one of these kind of businesses would be the most. Lawyers have a ton, but I've never maxed out. I've never tried maxing out. You start to get into things that won't make sense after a while, like to your business. So I've never tested live adding as many as I wanted. Like I never run out. Okay, so the logo and cover image. So Google makes it look like you can choose your logo and cover image. Sometimes they're more suggestions. So Google, you'll say, oh, this is my logo, this is my image I want to show up. And then Google says, yeah, I don't feel like doing that one, and I'm going to pick another one, right? So just make sure that Google doesn't pick something stupid that doesn't look right. If we look here, like he added his logo and it came up at his cover image as well, and it's not centered, doesn't look like it's cut off. It's not quite right. So make sure you look at your knowledge panel, do a branded search, see what comes up, and does it look right? And then see if
how would you change that one? Yeah, it's just being pulled out of the photos, right? So you would just need to change that so that there's more space around the logo, and so that when Google grabs it grabs it better.
So sometimes there's playing, like make sure, like first of all, choose it as a cover if you didn't choose the right one. But if you have a nice one as a cover and Google's not picking it for you, then what you want to do is, I have some notes here. So Google prefers for the cover photo to have outside, because they want people to, like, if you have a storefront, Google's trying to present like this is the storefront with the big, huge, banner in the front of the store. It doesn't like certain things, and I can't really get into the details too much because but generally just double check and see. One easy way to do it is, like, Google picked a dumb photo, you can delete that photo from your images area, and it's going to force Google to pick a new one, right? So I don't really like that idea, because now you're deleting a photo that might have had engagement on it, and now you're getting rid of that engagement. So that won't help rankings if you're getting rid of a photo that has engagement attached to it. So but if it has a small amount of views, well, it'll probably have a large amount of views, because if it was your cover photo, everyone would see it. So but that's like the last ditch effort if you want to, like, it's really not changing. I really got to get rid of that cover photo, you delete it from and Google, it'll force Google to pick another one. But I would try adding new ones as your cover photo, and it should switch within a couple hours. You should try that way.
So speaking of that engagement thing, Jackie asked a question. She said, we have 4 locations, all have their own profiles with the same name, except for one, our original location, which has an S at the end. We've been told not to touch that, even though it doesn't match our overall business title, signage, etc. Should we or should we not attempt to remove the S on our Google profile for that location?
If it's not a problem business-wise, I wouldn't touch it right now, because a name change can trigger suspension. Just automatically goes like, oh, you're changing the name. It doesn't know that you're just removing an S, right? It just sees a name change, and it could automatically get suspended. And right now it's 2 weeks before support even says hello back to you. So it would be a really bad time to play around with your main core name.
How will people know when Google is being more responsive? You know what I mean? Right now it's bad. How are you gonna know?
I'll know because I have my weekly calls with Google, so they tell us. I mean, that's,
maybe we should add that.
it's
Maybe we
not
should add that
something.
to our updates for the webinar, is like, how responsive is Google right now? You know, for making changes.
And I can't officially say, like, they don't even tell us officially. They just like, oh yeah, that seems to be within our limits of blah 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 blah. Like, yes, our
you make
support
enough
team
requests.
is back. Yeah, but we know because we do so many. I see so many people talking, and I do a lot of requests, and I know that that's how long it's taking right now. So I'm sure it's going to get. Normally, it's 3 to 5 days. So, and even 5 days, your listing goes down. That's a lot. Like, especially if you're getting all your business. So you want to wait for a lower time. You know, if you're not as seasonal or something like that, to make some of these. I wouldn't worry. It's not going to. An S is not going to. You're not losing business because of it. Don't change it right now, unless it's really bad for branding or something like that. I would just wait, and then ping me or something. Go on the Facebook group and ask me, and I'll answer what I think is a good time. So I didn't put all kinds of website stuff. Well, the website is a huge ranking factor. It's a good portion of where the information comes from. And so you want to make sure that your website is optimized. And if you're a single business, you can point it to the homepage. If you have multi-locations, 4 or more business like locations, typically you're going to want to link not to the homepage, but you're going to link to an internal page that has those location type keywords and information and the address and phone numbers for that specific location. So you want to help Google understand specific location things. And for better tracking, you can add UTM parameters on that website link. And there's a below, UTM /Google/Google Meet, all that kind of stuff. So again, if you're not sure what that means, just ask in a Facebook group, and someone will answer, if not me. Business hours. So make sure your business hours are correct. There's a lot of times that I see that they're just not right, or the website says one thing and the GMB says something else, and they don't match, or the schema in behind they forgot to update. Make sure everything is matching. And there's lots of extra hours that you can add. Senior hours, breakfast, like different restaurants have different hours for different times, and there's senior hours, pick up only hour. So use that to your advantage, because it does all show, and it's going to help a user when they're calling. Can I do, what about this? What if this? And then boom, the information's right there, and you're giving them what they want without them having to make any extra effort, like a phone call like Sarah has to make, and then you lose the business, right? Because I'm not sure, do they have this or not? So use all the fields that Google gives you, including like even things that don't seem super important, like extra hours. If they fit you, use them.
It's tough though, because I know, this stuff is, when you think about it, it's fairly easy. You click around in there, you find all the little things, and you use the ones that make sense to the business. But at the same time, Like you're constantly telling us like, don't change this, don't, you could get suspended.
So the business, yeah, don't change the business name without having all your backup properly done. Hours, you won't get suspended for hours. Description, services, you won't get. So most of the,
Would you
phone
say,
number. Yeah,
I
go
mean,
ahead.
would a good rule of thumb be like, if you're adding and embellishing to the profile, it's probably okay. If you're making major changes to core elements about your business, you might want to ask first before
Yeah.
you do it.
So changes to the address, 100%. Be very careful, even if you're just adding a suite number or something like that. Be careful. The listing may not get suspended, but you'll have to get re-verified at the address again. So not too bad. A name change might trigger auto suspension, and it also depends on what category you're in. If Google says, "Oh, this is a really bad spammy category like garage door repair or something like that," Google's like really touchy, and they're like, "Oh, no, spammers." Okay, lock it down, and then they're going to want to re-verify manually everything. So name, be careful of. Phone number shouldn't be an issue. It just may not get approved. Address, 100%. That's like the worst one to be aware of.
So yeah, on that point, Daryl said it sounds like you're saying Google is carelessly suspending listings simply because of a name change. Really? Are businesses that actually change their name at risk?
Typically when a business change, because you're supposed to, you think of it from the Google point of view. When you start your business, you create your listing, you're supposed to have used your real name. So why would a business change name? It's because it got sold or something big changed about the business. And so Google's like, well, something big is changing. Is it the same owner? Do the reviews make sense anymore? Are they, and so Google wants to re-verify all that information to make sure the information is accurate. So if you're changing the business name to Google, that's like, well, that's a big change. Well, you're changing a business name. We got to recheck everything now.
Well, and
So,
I would say,
yeah,
Daryl, what happens too is some of these, like especially service area businesses, they're trying kind of fraudulently to optimize their profile in a number of places. Like they will change the address. They will use an address that isn't really their address, or use a house location that isn't really a business location, because they're trying to like get more visibility. And so they change their name from like, PJ's Plumbing to like they'll take the name of a town, Chicago Plumbing. And so they'll change their name, and they'll do it all the time. And there are places that you will do this for you, and Google's trying to crack down on those. So like Jan said, like less likely for a doctor's office to do something like that. So in that category, and doctors' offices might change based on the names, or lawyers, so it just depends. And we don't really know how Google, situates its algorithm around that. But, you can tell from experience that changing a very permanent business versus some of these sort of like not sure where they exist businesses, and ones that aren't local, think about that. There are lots of businesses that have no location at all. They're strictly online, and they want to create location. So, they change their name, add a town name, things like that. So if it's legit, you can't worry about it too much.
Yeah, you got to do it. But, and also, and there's little things you can do, like you're going to change your name. Make sure you change the name on the website first. That and your copyright footer or something, and the about page and the contact page. Go and change your citations first. Now Google's crawling those things and sees some, and then you change it on your profile, and the profile, again, it's the algorithm checking these things. The profile will say, oh, let's go check the website. Let's go check back the citations. Oh, all those names match this new name. You're good to go.
Right, and that's what Kelly jumped in on the question and answer too, and said when she rebranded a portfolio of companies across the U.S., it was helpful to update the website and social first, then the Google business profile. And still a few of them got suspended, but it reduced the number.
Yeah, 100%. Yeah, we're on the same page there. So the description is not a ranking factor. So you just have a certain number of characters. write this for a human. Put some call to actions if you want. It's just there for people to read, basically, not for the search engine to read. The attributes. So attributes, pick the ones that make sense to you. Update things that have changed. If COVID's done for you, then and your workers don't have to do XYZ anymore, then update those things and pick the things that make sense, like women owned or LGBTQ friendly, or what there's new one. There's they add them periodically. So go and check and make sure that the ones are there that make sense, because they do two things, right? So sometimes you're a female dentist. Some women only want a female dentist. So you want to put that female owned business attribute, maybe, type of thing. So, and that kind of stuff shows up. If I go here, identifies as women owned. So women led business. So if you do a female dentist, you're going to get ones that pick. So that Google has chosen for you, and that is a ranking factor. You will bump up higher because Google is matching that thing. So attributes can be a ranking factor if Google thinks like they're exactly matching the attribute that they're looking for, a veteran-led business, something like that.
Can I jump in with a couple of scenarios?
Yeah, of course.
Shayla said, I'm a manager for a number of my clients' GBP listings. I have them in a group called Edmonton, the name of the city. But there are listings in there that are not located in Edmonton. Is there a better way of creating a group?
I guess it just depends on how you use it. I mean, I know if you create a group, it's easier to find. Then you have other ones that are not in a group. Maybe you could put them in other, that way you're separating them. If you're using a third party tool to like pull information, sometimes it's easier to have them in a group or not. So that you can, like, if you're pulling stuff into Data Studio, for example, I know that it's easier to group things in Data Studio if it's already grouped in your dashboard, for example. But there's no other way. You just create groups and add listings to groups, and you can have one listing, I think, in different groups if you're sorting things like that. So I'm not clear on if I'm answering the question all the way, but.
Okay, we'll jump back into the Q&A if we didn't.
Yeah.
And Josh asked, in automotive industry, our appointment and order links have recently changed from manual submissions to being automatically filled in by providers. Is this a permanent change?
I'm not up on auto stuff as much.
I'm not sure. Manual submissions to being automatically filled in by providers. I don't know what that means, but you know who would is Cam or Sandberg. So I don't know if you guys are on today. Josh, we'll try to get you an answer to that.
Yeah, it's a bit unclear. Those are special programs, and so sometimes they make changes that we're not, the public doesn't really see that as much. But ask in the Facebook group, that way we don't forget that you've asked that question, maybe. All right, so I want to leave time, but okay, so photos, so just add photos, add big photos, encourage
why don't we hit these questions first, and then if there's time we'll do more of that, because there's some interesting. Nicole asked, we just verified a GBP profile yesterday via video chat, and it showed as verified within a few hours. Today, it has changed back to verification required. Is there a reason this would happen after the page was just verified?
Just glitches. Google has glitches like at any software. You have to contact support. So anything that seems to be a technical thing, you have to contact support. It's not like there's no trick to get around it. It's something happens and it's not happening. It's a glitch. Maybe Google knows about it. Maybe they don't know about it, or they're working on it or not working on it. It's hard to know.
What would you do? Would you wait a day and see if it straightens itself out, or you'd go contact?
No, I would contact support, because now you're not live. So something the way you're not live, you can, and it's not like a reinstatement where we know that it's 2 weeks right now. If it's a technical thing, my post isn't showing up, or all my post shows are not showing up, or all my reviews are no new reviews are showing up. Those are technical things. We have to contact support for that.
Scott said, thanks for addressing the checklist question. Are there recommended vendors to use for building local links, map links, Fiverr, Upwork? Also, is there a service with Local Falcon that would help audit a listing that's struggling and help define areas of improvement? Or does Local Falcon help identify areas to focus on with a competitor analysis? So I know there's like 7 questions in there.
Yeah. So DBA does citations. So if you're a larger, have a chain, and then that's a possibility there. Local Falcon is just it's a rank tracker, really, and you got to use your brain to compare if you're comparing it against other listings. But
I mean, I would say
yeah.
Local Falcon helps in that, once you identify what your keywords are, you're going to be able to see exactly how well you're doing. So that's pivotal because, there's only 3 businesses that show up in the map pack, and you're either one of them or you're not. And the question is, how far away from your front door do you still appear for people? And it can be really different. And, and if you're number 4, it's like not being there, so you really need to be in the top 3 to even be part of the choice that the consumer sees. So then, like when you look at the, at these maps, yeah, you can see like I'm not showing up, and why not? And so these are sort of different keywords here, and what you show up for and how far away. And then you can see that like where you're getting towards the edge of the map, when I look at that tree removal service one, that's pretty good. And I could see where I could expand that one a little more. But I'm not ranking at all for tree removal near me. How come? Then what I do is I go look at who is ranking for that, because now with Local Falcon, you can see the competitors. Then you can go look at what they're doing in their profile. So, I mean, it does kind of give you a look under the hood to understand, and some of these you might go, okay, this one's not worth it. This is a keyword that I can't rank for because like I'm ranking 20 plus and I'm not going to get that one, but what else can I get? And how could I change my website maybe, or whatever, to be more strategic about that one? So it's a question of, to me, it's a question of where are you going to put your firepower? And that's what Local Falcon helps you do. And if you don't know how, it gives you the competitors that are doing it right. It's not a big leap to go look at their stuff and then go, oh, I should do that, and then you could be there.
Good answer.
Yeah,
so now I'm skipping around. Yeah.
He's very he's, what's the word, like he doesn't want to be prideful since he created Local Falcon, but it's a really cool tool.
And the last thing that I have here is it can help you find duplicate listings and technical issues like, why am I ranking? I should be ranking. It's like, oh, if you look at the competitor list, you might see another business that's a match for yours, at this an old business that was at the same location, and Google is filtering you. So there's things to look at on the scan. And that's one of the things, if you come to the my monthly office hours, you can ask me questions about Local Falcon, and I'll go through some of that technical stuff or specific to your, I'll log in and we'll look at your scans and that kind of stuff. So that's something that we can do very specifically in that monthly 1-hour call. So yeah, I guess we'll just go through the questions. I have tons of other things, and I think we went through a lot of the important things. The website is super important. I said, match your services on your website, make sure they each have their separate page, make sure you have the best optimization practices on your website, all that, I'm just going to go through here so that if someone wants to look at the video and read my notes here, then they can, but go ahead and ask me more questions.
Let's see, Jessica says, where photos are concerned, someone has been uploading photos of our staff swag just because it has our logo on it, like a photo of a mouse pad or grocery bag or coffee cup. We don't sell these products, we do mortgages. Should these irrelevant photos be removed, or is it really the more the merrier, even if they don't represent what the business does?
if I would say if they're not negative and confusing people, then you can leave them up. If they're so irrelevant and there's so many of them that people can't find what they're looking for, or if it's confusing to people, then I would flag them for being irrelevant. But yeah.
Okay, Scott has a question that's pretty detailed. Please discuss how to use local schema on a site with multiple locations. What schema, if any, goes on the home page versus what schema should be on the landing pages? Do you list other locations as departments? Does schema get applied site-wide or only on specific pages? How much does schema really help with ranking and Google Business Profile ranking? So before you jump into that, Jan, can you give a little bit of background about what Scott's talking about? How you know, why you would use local schema on a site that has multiple locations?
So yeah, I don't have any slides that show what schema is, but schema is just code in the back end that gives information that's more readable for the search engine to understand. The name of your business, the hours of your business, the address and phone number and that kind of stuff. So it doesn't necessarily have to like search your website and all the content for things like that. Within the schema, you're basically telling, this is who I am, this is my number, this is like, it's just an easy way. It's really, you're giving information to the machine at that point. So there's lots of different schema. For local business schema, if you have multiple locations, I would keep your homepage to your main office, and then on each location page, only have the location schema for that location, and with the phone number and address and all that stuff. So just have it per page, per location. If you have a larger business, there's review schema, and you want to make sure that you use that, properly. You have to have the review on the page visibly, like so that someone can read it, and then you have that review or product review schema in the back end that matches that. It's not super complicated. It's just an extra layer. You have to be careful to make sure that if you're changing hours, make sure you change your schema, and on the front end and on your, it's an extra place to check. Basically, I don't know if I got all the pieces there.
Would you list other locations as departments?
I don't think it's necessary. Maybe on the home page you would. Let's say you have a GMB listings, and none of them, because you have a large company, you have like lots of places, none of them point to the home page. Then on the home page, you can have all the departments, because a GM listing, like, you're not using the home page as a landing page, because all the individual landing pages are going to be the location pages. If your home page is not really a landing pages for any one specific listing, then yeah, you can do that. It might help with the organic to understand things. In general, the schema doesn't really help rankings at all. It's just there to make sure that there's no mistakes. Make sure you're basically reinforcing information, but it doesn't necessarily help more than if you had your office hours like on just visible without the schema. The review schema is really nice, because that helps the click-through rate, and that's a whole different thing where you could get the stars showing up in the search results.
It can be a little tricky if you have multiple locations and one website. We've run into many little issues around that. If you have those situations and you need some extra help, I would go to somebody's office hours and ask what's the best way to get that set up. And there are things that you can do in the platform, like sometimes Google basically creates edits of its own for people's locations, for the individual locations, and it's not correct, and DBA platform helps you lock that stuff down. If you manage multiple locations, you can do it through the platform, where you can't do that at a universal level just using your Google tools. So if you need some help with something like that, because it's a little more complicated, go to an office hours, or if you want to contact us in the Facebook group and just, ask for some help, we can, we have experts who can kind of walk you through how that stuff works. Thank you everybody for attending. I think that's, whenever we do these overviews, I know there's a lot of very specific questions, and they're good questions. And those questions actually help, help everybody learn like the ins and outs. And because it's one thing to say, here's the basics, do these things. It's another thing to have your own scenarios, that don't apply exactly to the universal rules. So thank you for providing questions today. We're going to try to provide back an SEO optimization for local checklist that at least can touch on these things. And then, if you want to get deeper in them, Jan is saying, maybe he can create some deeper tools that way. If you are interested, you can try Local Falcon for free. Sign up and get some credits, run some scans to see how it works. Again, we have office hours, people who can help you. It's very easy. But if you're the kind of person who just wants a walkthrough, you can get one. DBA platform is for managing locations at scale. So if you have multiple locations, if you're an agency or a big brand, there's a lot of automation features in the platform that can help you, and we can have somebody run through that with you too. Thank you, everybody. I wanted to tell Tim I also miss Photos hot dogs since I haven't had one in a long time. And John says he's a fellow ex-Montrealer living in Newmarket.
Oh, cool. Okay.
All right. Take care, everybody. See you next month.
All right.